Good morning. This is another episode of Young Entrepreneurs Building the Future of Business. And with me, we have Juliana Snyder, who is the co-host for this episode. And we also have Chico. He is joining us, and I'm hearing that you are joining us from Florida today. Chico,
Yeah.
welcome. All of you. Do you have permission to record this episode for us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, very well. With your permission, we will go ahead and start recording. And Juliana is our co-host. Why don't Juliana go ahead and introduce Chico, and we go from there.
Good. So Chico is a young entrepreneur who has been pretty ambitious out of college. He's founded Square Roots company, and during this pandemic, he's learned to pivot to different things. And I'll let him talk a little bit more about that and all that he does. But he's a very successful entrepreneur that is ambitious. So, go ahead, Chico.
Okay. Yeah. So my name is Chico Weber. I am the founder of Square Fruit Labs. When we first started, we were very much focused on 3D printing. We still are, but we're now kind of focusing more on the AgTech industry and specifically on energy efficiency in growing food. So we have a product called Grow Motion that is a moving grow light. It reduces the energy cost to grow similar crops versus fixed lighting. So this is something huge for indoor farmers, vertical farmers, and greenhouse farmers that want to grow food year round, but are really hindered by the high costs of either owning the equipment or just the electrical usage that they're going through month by month. We can reduce the energy cost by up to 70% compared to traditional lighting technologies. And we do this with our own proprietary robotic system that uses the highest efficiency LED diodes on the market. And we combine that with a newer sensor system that can really give you a lot of environmental feedback and stuff. And our beta testers love it. So we've been testing it in St. Louis, and we're looking to expand to other cities such as Miami out here. So yeah.
Good. Yeah, that's exciting. So can you just tell us a little bit about your journey, kind of like how you got started into like the entrepreneur, business, and what prompted that?
Yeah, I started out of college. So, I got my degree in manufacturing engineering from SIUE. And I really just wanted to work for myself and solve problems that I don't think would have been solved if I were working for somebody else. And it's a hard journey, but it's been rewarding. And so I've been spending the last few years working on MVPs for other companies, prototyping, a lot of 3D printing, a lot of CAD design work, electrical programming, everything it takes to build these things. And so now I'm ready to launch my own products, and it's been a learning thing for the last few years, but it's a journey, and we're here now. So
yeah, I mean, a lot of times we get younger entrepreneurs here, so like they're a little bit earlier in their journey of starting a business. So kind of, can you tell us about a little of those challenges that you had starting out?
Yeah, the big thing is, I think deciding if you want that comfort of employment. And it's, for some people it's great, but it's not really for everybody. So if you have that itch like I did for solving bigger issues and wanting to, I guess, pave your own path, it's definitely worth pursuing, no matter what age. Even if you do it older and that's something you want to like tackle down the road, you totally can. If you do it early on, make sure that you diversify a little bit and learn and humble yourself, because you will be surrounded by other entrepreneurs if you go down this route that want to help you and see you succeed, but they're also going to criticize what you do. And you need to be able to take that and understand that they're criticizing you and telling you directions you need to take for your own success, and not to throw you down, because honestly, everybody wants to see you succeed, because, the more wealth that we have around us, it's the better. So that's something, that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, I think a lot of times young entrepreneurs are like, they just have this goal in mind or idea of what a business looks like. And sometimes, when you get into it, you find out like there's so many facets and parts and components to actually running and doing your own business.
Oh yeah. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of sleepless nights. It's a lot of repeated failure. You're gonna have to just be really comfortable with being really bad at everything for quite a while. And learn from it and take everything as not a loss, but as a learning experience, and just constantly improve until you find what you're looking for. And it may not be what you started wanting to do. I know it wasn't what I started wanting to do, but
Yeah. What was your like
so,
initial plan of
I'm
starting your
sorry.
own business? What was your initial plan in starting your own business, and what was that
Oh,
dream that changed?
yeah, it was renewable energy. I had this dream for starting a wind turbine company, and it's incredibly complicated to manufacture wind turbines. Everything from, you know, axial flux, permanent magnet, like alternators that you have to like develop that weren't the most efficient when I started are now mass produced. But at the time, it was a very complicated procedure to make this alternative style of energy system that could be portable and small, that would work for like the everyday person that needed energy, and for the majority of the world that didn't have access to it. And so that's kind of how I went down the rabbit hole of 3D printing, thinking I could 3D print these turbine blades, apply them to this alternating system, and then use that to generate electricity. But then more people wanted the service of 3D printing, so then I pivoted to that. And then, you know, it's switched over to the, well, some people want to buy printers, so then I kind of switched over to that, and now we're focused more on the AgTech thing, which is using 3D printing to produce components for a system that then grows food. So
Yeah, it's definitely a journey I see, because it's like you have something in mind, especially when you have a product or something. It's like you have this in mind, but if the consumer doesn't want it, then it's like, you have to pivot towards what the consumer wants and prefers, because they have the money. So
yeah. Well, for our thing, it was more about budgeting and figuring out what could I deliver to the market first. And you can have big ambitions, but if you don't have the revenue stream to keep it going, you're going to quickly dry up. And that was one of the big problems I had early on. So
yeah, well, what kind of recommendations or like resources do you have for young entrepreneurs, for that revenue stream or maybe funding? Because I know you did a couple of competitions, right?
I did, yeah. Early on, we won a couple small competitions, and it was enough to get a few things started. But we were definitely generating revenue before that. It wasn't a lot. It was, under 50,000 a year for it, and it was something where I wanted to really, I think for a lot of people, not to focus on raising venture capital early on, but focus more on generating a quality product or a service. No matter if you find it technologically advanced, or if it's simple as making like a food product or something that you want to like sell that's healthier. There's a lot that you can do, and just focusing on servicing the few customers that are going to advertise and promote and really worship your product is more key to that success, because that's marketing, that's growth that you really need, and you really need your product to speak for you, and you need your customers that trust you and believe in your product to do that beyond yourself early on. And then, the investors will show up, they'll come in, and then, you'll find that later on, but it really won't happen until you find that success and do it on your own. So
yeah, thank you for the advice. So I guess you've seen a lot of challenges, and you've seen a lot of other entrepreneurs yourself. Like what are the biggest problems that young entrepreneurs have, or just entrepreneurs in general? And then like, what are some recommendations for that?
I think one of the biggest challenges is losing focus on what you were really trying to do. And it's not, you start a company, but it really shouldn't be there to make money. I think if you start a business to make money, your business won't be around for very long. I think if you focus on solving problems, and that's what people have. People have problems, and figuring out what that problem is and figuring out how your solution is unique and is efficient for them is the key to that. And when you focus on that, then they'll pay, and then you'll have the revenue, and then you'll be sustainable and you can scale that out. But without focusing on what problem you're really solving, then you're not really offering you're not really offering something to potential customers, and you're not offering something that is going to change, the dynamics of your environment or the people that could be potentially your customers for it.
Yeah. So I guess now you've pivoted into AgTech. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I know that's kind of a big industry or growing industry right now.
Yeah.
More about that.
I have no background in ag tech. Like I said, my degree's in manufacturing engineering. So
Yeah.
that was a bit of a difficult transition for me. But the big thing was to figure out a way to grow food more efficiently. And we're spending about $300 billion annually in the food service industry alone. That's everything to grow. That's everything to transport, handle, and deliver food from the farm directly to you. And that's just in the US. And that's more energy than I think the entire UK uses for the whole country, for all UK. So it's like you're looking at a huge disruption if you're able to reduce that energy use by even 10%. So the big thing with focusing on ag tech is focusing on just a major issue that we're currently having, that the pandemic has accelerated, which is a shortage in food and a shortage in workers that can transport the food, and a shortage in the capability of growing food as close as possible to people in urban cities where the population densities are the highest. So anything we can do to deliver more tech that reduces water, that reduces electrical use, that reduces pesticides and fertilizers for healthier, higher density, nutritious food is going to be key to sustaining a growing population. And that's something we really need to focus on, and for ourselves, but also for the environment.
Yeah, I think that's really insightful what you said, because, as we see the GDP, or just over time, the US, I think, has gotten a little bit less efficient in the amount of people that they've had. Less people, I guess, are efficient. And so using that technology is really important to drive, the production of a country, especially if your workforce is declining, or if they're less productive than they used to be. So.
Yeah, it's going to take years for recovery to happen in this, especially with this time now. But it's coming together, and but energy use is going to continue to rise. So it's just being able to focus and being more vigilant and introducing products that have that kind of that focus in mind, I think, are going to be huge staples for people.
I guess with your background of industrial engineering, being able to have that supply chain a lot closer, I'm sure is, really helpful too for a lot of people, and, cuts down on the expenses that you were talking about. So yeah, I think it's a great product, and maybe you can post your website or whatever in the link below this, or your company, and to look more at that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah, the thing with manufacturing is keeping it local, and that was not just to put a made in America sign on it, but it was for the cost. Without having that revenue, before we were getting this thing going, we had to figure out how to make everything locally and source as close to the US as possible. So 3D printing was big on replacing injection molding that we would have had to outsource. And because I already had, that capability in-house, we just decided to use that process. And it was something where we could start delivering MVPs to people directly within weeks. So, and yeah, anything like that does not rely on outside sources, especially now that it's just so hard and it takes so long to get things shipped over from China now, or India. It's a really, it's a battle. So I think it's, you're looking at this as being a complete change in what the industry is going to focus on. And I think local manufacturing is going to start dominating again. So.
Yeah, I think that it's really interesting, as as everything, the world is so interconnected with global, and with the supply chain issues, it'll bring a lot of things back in-house in the US. And so that's interesting. And as you see people moving around the US as well, going towards more of the Midwest or cheaper places to live, with virtual technology and everything. You can work from home. So it's really interesting to see how supply chains move and also, people move and human resources.
Yeah, you start seeing where we are as a country the weakest, and how much we depend on imports. And it's a bit terrifying, and I think it was something that we obviously weren't prepared for, but I think we're looking at this and making certain decisions now on what we need to focus and prioritize on to ensure that we can continue, because we're really we're at risk here with this. So
Yeah.
and general products. So, yeah.
You know more about the manufacturing business. Like, do you know what kind of impact, or a little bit more about, I guess, the industry regarding China and India and problems with their manufacturing?
Well, not so much problems. I mean, they're essentially dominating. India is expanding out with now they're trying out 5G, so they're working quite well with it. But and China's the global leader in manufacturing. It's like you can't dispute that. So our big thing now is focusing on what can we do, and what can we manufacture here locally, and and we have the equipment, we have the technology, but we also have a weakening labor force that isn't working, that isn't stepping up. So and we're losing people. So it's a huge battle to figure out how to automate, how to expedite that automation and reoccurring revenue for these companies that are faced with this, whether it's logistics or it's going to be agricultural like production, whether it's just general electronics manufacturing domestically. We're very much dependent on foreign exchange here for this, and I think a huge move now is going to be focusing on transitioning that over to domestic production. So because we just can't depend on it.
Yeah, it's interesting, as you said, the new generation of productivity. Do you see as many people today going into starting their own business or doing new things? And how do you see the workforce, the younger generation workforce?
I'm seeing a lot more. It's a lot more software. So a lot more internet connected devices. The Internet of Things is big, and it's something that we're focusing on as well for our product. And being able to collect data, offer that as a service, being able to figure out ways to add artificial intelligence, machine learning to sort of bridge that gap between human interventions that have to come in between you and the product, and optimizing services, no matter what they are. But I think that's going to be the future of it. So when you combine that with systems like blockchain technology for security, you're really going to have a pretty drastic change in the way software is developed, and this whole no-code movement too is going to be big. So you're looking at a complete change in the way products don't just turn on and off. They're going to be much more intelligent, and you're going to see that drastically increase over time, and as it becomes more accessible and people can learn to integrate that type of capability in more and more pieces of technology. So
yeah, I definitely agree with that. We see, I like that, and I think it creates a lot more. It creates a smoother transaction, and it's a better cycle, probably. Reduces times, efficiencies, and then labor force can be working on something else if they actually work. But so it's interesting how things will move and industries will change, and people will decide on different jobs based on the things that are happening too.
Yeah, it's I think a lot of people are worried about job loss. But when you look at it, it's the big concern is about too many open positions and not enough people filling them. That's why robotics and automation are taking over, and it's primarily why software is key here, and getting more people involved in developing that software. I think so. You're gonna start seeing. my prediction is a lot more software developers are going to become the new working middle class for it, and the older labor force is going to be a lot more robotic based than some people may feel comfortable with. But I think that'll be the reality of it, and as things change, that's what we're going to see.
Yeah, I agree. It's not necessarily job loss, it's job creation in other areas. It's just transforming into different jobs, because you can make your own job by being self-employed or an entrepreneur. So there's always a job out there for someone.
Yeah, it's about how do you make that transition for a very large class of individuals that have been traditionally working in that area, and now they're being replaced with robots, and how do you prepare them for a new job? So I
think it's important. Maybe someone will tackle, transitioning the older generation mostly. Something newer, because I think today people are a little bit more fluid in what they know and what they do and work. People go from different jobs all the time nowadays, so it's a little bit more different.
I think isn't it like freelancers or self-employed freelancers are the number one? I think they're the top independent workers here in the US. I think it's
I would assume so, with Uber and Lyft and everything else. Everybody can be a self-employed person and work their full-time job too. So, it kind of doubles that way. So, Dr. Islam, do you have any comments about this or insight?
Well, it's very, very nicely done, Chico. Excuse me. And you are creating in an environment which is very competitive, but interesting to see a young entrepreneur who is venturing in that area in US, which is fascinating, because we do need many young entrepreneurs with, especially with engineering degrees, who are capable of doing this innovation and new technology to bring the newness in our world. And what you mentioned is very, very fascinating also, that you said repeated failure, get comfortable with repeated failure, and then success will come. And I am very interested to know more of that. So we are running out of time, but next week, 2 weeks from now, we are going to see you again, and we will be discussing some of that about repeated failure. So a lot of young entrepreneurs give up because it's repeated failure, and your mindset of learning from that and growing this new technology in the market is very fascinating. So thank you very much, Juliana. I don't have any more questions. So we will discuss this in detail with Chico next time.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Chico.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you, Chico, and thank you, Juliana, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
All right. See you then.